It's just another manic Monday. I wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day. I'll have to run day. Kind of falls off at the end. Tom Campbell from Isolation Station 24601 with your wrestling news. A top WWE superstar was injured at Backlash 2020. Meanwhile, an AEW star is out of action for a while, and a WWE star left Raw for Smackdown after a clash with Paul Heyman. Find out who and why in a little bit. So just before Backlash got underway last night, some news came down the wires that Edge suffered an injury during the match, and I think we're all in agreement that our hearts sank when we heard that. But I don't know whether this is good bad news or bad good news or bittersweet news. I don't know. Anyway, whilst Edge did suffer an injury in that match, it wasn't a neck injury, because I think the moment that we saw Edge suffers an injury, we all thought, oh, not again, no, not the neck, not the neck, not the neck. It turns out that on the match that was recorded the other week, Edge suffered a tricep injury. Now, if you have watched the match already, I mean, I can't tell where the injury occurs, but it's somewhere in that 35-minute greatest wrestling match ever, where Edge suffers what seems to be a torn tricep, and they kept this completely undercover. Even when they were doing the press for the match, there was no mention of the injury at all. It leaked just last night, and a tricep injury normally keeps a wrestler out of action for about 8 months or so, possibly more, possibly less, it depends. But I'm just, either way you cut it, this is gutting, because it certainly felt like that we were heading to another showdown between Edge and Orton for SummerSlam, which is in August. And if the tricep injury is as bad as we believe it to be, then there's no way Edge is going to be ready for a match at SummerSlam. So we're looking to probably finish off this Edge-Orton rivalry into 2021, which would be nice actually to do it in front of live crowds, but just gutted. Really gutted for Edge. This one hits a bit different for somebody who fought to come back, only to have this big comeback of his completely sounds bad to say ruined, because there's worse things happening in the world, but like for a guy who had this major comeback at the Rumble, and then his big WrestleMania match was in front of nobody, and then we had the Backlash match, which was in front of Performance Center crowds, you were kind of holding on going, okay, well, come SummerSlam, when the trajectory is for this feud to finish, there'll be a live crowd, Edge can get the pop and it'll feel special. Doesn't look like Edge will be at SummerSlam now, but obviously we will see how this unfolds, but we send nothing but our best to Edge. If you want to find out what happened in the greatest wrestling match ever, if it did indeed live up to the hyperbole, you can check out What Happened At with Jack right now, and also Backlash graded and the WTF moments from Backlash with Ross a little bit later on the Cultaholic YouTube channel. Another injury to a top star, this time on the other side of the wrestling pond. AEW's Chris Statlander confirmed an injury on her Twitter last night. Statlander tweeted out, "Since the news is out there, I told you I'd dive on Kip again, and damn it I did. But in doing so, I ended up with a high-grade tear in my ACL. Yes, I needed surgery. Yes, I'll be out of the ring for a while. I'll do my best to still show up on your TVs as much as I can." So Statlander spoke out about this after PW Insider reported the injury. Statlander went online and said, "Yeah, it's true. I've suffered an injury." This is a tough break for the AEW, and in particular the AEW Women's Division. We've just had Dr. Britt Baker go down with an injury. She won't be back in the ring till September. Chris Statlander was another one of those who was certainly up there, ready to be a part of the mix, possibly even like the next in line, in my opinion, for the women's title. That seemingly not happening for a while now, as Statlander is out. The Statlander character divides a lot of people. I always get the vibe that Jim Ross isn't a fan, judging by the way that he talks about Statlander. I think he finds it very difficult to buy that there is a wrestling alien. It's easy, mate. She's an alien. She's not from around here. She's learnt our ways, and she's doing the best that she can. We send a get well boop to Chris Statlander. Heal well, and we will see you soon. New Japan Pro Wrestling gets back underway today. As I speak, we are literally an hour or so away from New Japan's mystery card being streamed on New Japan World. And then we have the New Japan Cup kicking off tomorrow as well. It's all kicking off once again for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but they may have already kicked off already, don't you know? You know. PW Insider reporting that a TV taping was held on Saturday at New Japan Pro Wrestling's LA dojo. It was called the Lions Break Collision. And guys like Jeff Cobb, TJP, Rocky Romero, Clark Connors, Carl Fredericks, Mysterioso were all part of that taping. Some really cool names involved in what appears to be a taped New Japan US show. Now, we don't know when this will see the light of day, but there's about 10 matches apparently recorded at the dojo. This was going to be the year that New Japan were going to really advance into the States. They had this big presser, what feels like a lifetime ago, where they announced plans for New Japan US, the American expansion of New Japan, and then obviously the World caught fire. We haven't seen that yet, but it seems as if we were expecting a show in front of either no crowd or trainees or a select number from the LA dojo very soon. When we know more, you will know more. It feels like a lot of the guys that were released from WWE in April may find themselves homes in Impact Wrestling. We, of course, talked about last week the video that Impact Wrestling put out hyping the fired wrestlers from WWE, hinting that some of them may be heading to Impact Wrestling. Guys like Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, EC3 were all teased. We, of course, know that the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo is now a part of Impact Wrestling. She very much staked her claim for the Women's Championship, for the Knockouts Championship on TV last week. EC3 has been teasing, heading that way as well. We had Rhino teasing an arrival of Heath Slater, saying, I've got a tag team partner and he's got kids. See what you did there, see what you did there. Another name possibly connected with Impact Wrestling who was let go from WWE is Tainara Conti. So this comes about after a conversation on Twitter regarding the Knockouts Tag Team Championship, something that's been sort of quietly on the rounds on social media for the last day or so. Possibly sort of end of last week, we saw Taylor Wilde hinting at a return, former TNA Knockouts champion and former Knockouts Tag Team champion, hinting at a return to Impact Wrestling. So talk of a women's tag team division in Impact inspired a conversation from Madison Rayne and Gail Kim, who were bouncing around some names that could be involved in the tournament. One of those names, if this was to happen, it's all fantasy booking at this point, one of those names was bounced into the conversation was Ty Conti, released from NXT recently. And Ty Conti saw this and certainly showed a lot of intrigue to it. The virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo even tweeted they should call themselves Team Released, to which Ty said, ha 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 ha, deal. That seems like it's a thing that's happening. I feel like Impact are testing the waters for a Knockouts Tag Team Division return. It feels like it. It's not a coincidence that the Knockouts Tag Team title seems to keep being dropped into conversation. So could Ty Conti and Deonna Purrazzo form a team in this division? Why not? Charlotte Flair is one who has got the dander of wrestling fans up as of late. She's been winning all the matches on every show ever, and she addressed some of the fan frustration with her on Wrestling Daft, Grado's podcast. It's your cell. Love you, Grado. Charlotte said, in discussion of the reaction that fans have had to her, I think I'm doing some of my best work in my career right now. I realise that because people see me all the time, it's not what they're used to, and the expectation is so high. It is so frustrating. Am I not supposed to be hungry? Am I not supposed to always want to be on top? Am I not supposed to be fighting to get better? It's a catch-22. There is that. I try my best to be sort of impartial, optimistic with these things, but I can't help but feel like Charlotte's recent run in NXT kind of was for naught, other than to give Charlotte something to do at the expense of an entire division. I'm not one just to rag on somebody like that, and I don't think it's down to Charlotte. I think it's down to people at the top who are massive fans of Charlotte. And what are you going to do? What's Charlotte going to do? Say, oh, thank you very much for all these great opportunities, but do you know what? I think I'll pass. I think I'll pass on them. It is indeed a catch-22. I kind of see where she's coming from for that, and I'm nervous that now that we have sort of one team over Raw and SmackDown, we may see a stronger influx of Charlotte, which I think will probably do more to damage that reputation that she has, because it continues that idea that Charlotte is all places all the time, regardless of how good she is. And she has had some belter matches. She truly has. It's not a coincidence that she's been a part of some matches that have been graded very highly on this channel and on other channels. But yeah, the whole phrase "less is more" springs to mind. Bobby Lashley, but not Bobby Leasley. They don't want none. They don't want none. They wouldn't like any. They don't like it up 'em. The music of AJ Styles, who, as we know, is now a part of Friday Night SmackDown, formerly of Monday Night Raw, made the jump and has done all right for himself so far, hasn't he? He's done all right over on SmackDown. We found out a little bit of why AJ Styles found himself on SmackDown in the first place after doing some really good stuff on Monday Night Raw. Now, according to Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer forums, AJ Styles felt that whilst it was a Vince McMahon decision to get rid of Gallows and Anderson, his boys, he feels like Paul Heyman could have fought a little harder to keep them. And he feels like Paul Heyman didn't have his back on a lot of stuff and was reportedly furious at Paul Heyman about the releases of his friends. So much so that he went, you know what? I don't want to be on Raw anymore. I don't feel like you've had my best intentions in mind, so I'm going to go to SmackDown. But it's funny because at the moment, Raw and SmackDown are filmed pretty much at the same place round about the same time. So it's like breaking up with someone and carrying on living with them. It's a weird situation. I'm sure when they get back on the road, it won't be so weird. But yeah, AJ Styles, part of SmackDown, making a clean break for it after Gallows and Anderson going and kind of holding Heyman to account for not sort of defending their corner, really. And whilst there is frustration there, I'm sure Paul Heyman has had plenty of other fires to put out whilst working on Monday Night Raw. But I can imagine he's quite happy for the break, to be perfectly honest. Of course, AJ Styles wasn't a part of Backlash last night, but we will talk about everything that was here on the Cultaholic YouTube channel throughout the day. You can watch what happened with Jack right now. We'll do Backlash graded, you and I, a little bit later on, and Ross will be along with the WTF moments from Backlash 2020 a little later on there as well. And that's coming up in a bit. In the meantime, I mean, the New Japan show's starting soon, at time of recording, time of speaking, so that's something to look forward to. Or you could watch that video there. I like that one a lot. It's a really good bit in that video that always makes me smile. Once you find it, let me know what it is. That's good. And then do those things there as well. Do those things. Love you. Bye.